Hello and welcome once again to the video. In this one I'm just going to do my usual predictions video for the upcoming Formula One World Championship, which starts in only a few days' time. Now, these predictions are just coming from a fan of many years, many decades actually. I started religiously watching every Grand Prix every weekend after the Monaco Grand Prix of 1982. So what's that, 44 years. Before that, just the odd British Grand Prix I would watch. Well, pretty much every year before 1982, but Monaco 82 onwards, that was a very good race to start as well. It was every Grand Prix. But it's very much, they're very much the opinions of a fan. There are people that watch my channel that know more about the technical side of Formula One than I do, definitely. And I welcome that. Obviously, I do have some technical knowledge. Most of my knowledge, though, comes from just the history, having watched it for so long, and I don't tend to forget. So I don't forget all the champions all down the years. I don't forget how many races they've won, what happened in most races. Well, not most races, actually. Not most races, but a lot of races. So, let's dive in, shall we? Now, I was thinking how best to do this. I thought what I'll do is I'll list the 10 teams in the order that I think they will finish the World Championship. And then list next to that their teammates in regards to who will finish ahead of who. And then I'll probably just do a rundown of the Drivers' Championship, maybe looking at where I think the top 8 will finish, say. Yeah. It's very difficult to predict this year, I have to say. Very difficult. There'll be a lot of wild stabs in the dark, you know. Okay, so let's start then, shall we? Now, I'm going to list the teams first, I think, up here. So I'm going to put Mercedes. That is not a shock to anyone, of course. Mercedes, because they've performed very well in the shakedown tests. They performed very well in testing. Although I think Russell was only the 6th or 7th fastest driver, 5th, 6th or 7th fastest driver, I think, over the whole test. But that might have just been when he was running, what time of the day he was running, or what his particular program was, how much fuel he had. Did he do many quick runs? Leclerc did a lot of quick running on the final day, which is why he ended up with the fastest time. And because he's very fast, and because the Ferrari seems to be very fast with its small turbo. But anyway, I put Mercedes top. And of the drivers, I think you're going to see, well, they've got a very strong driver lineup. But I would say Russell. And then Antonelli, of course. Is it 1 L or 2 L's? 2 L's, I think. That's an easy one to say, really. Antonelli should be better, yes, but Russell is he's the one. This year, he's the one that should be racing to the championship. He's too good not to win it this year, basically. He's too good not to win it, full stop, but I think he's too good not to win it this year, seeing as he has a car that so far looks able to win the championship. I think it would be terrible if he didn't actually win it. As things stand at the moment, anyway. So let's have a look at the next one. I think in second will be Ferrari. No, I don't. Why have I put Ferrari? I'll tell you what, I'm going to gently cross that out. Why did I put Ferrari? I meant to put McLaren. I looked at the wrong note that I've got in front of me. And their drivers, I think you'll see Norris beating Piastri again. Remember what I have said all through last year, and that was that Norris was quicker than Piastri all throughout the year. Piastri picked up a lot of wins because of mistakes Norris was making, and he wasn't getting to grips with the car early on in the season. So Piastri was being able to stroke his car to the finish pretty easily when the McLaren had total dominance. With his teammate down in 6th place on the grid, Piastri was able to just stride across the line, which I found extremely frustrating. I don't mind Piastri winning every race if he's beating Lando. But if it's down to either mistakes by Lando or issues he has with the car, then, or an issue he had with Max in Miami, then it's a bit frustrating. So I think, so it did correct itself at the end of last year. Norris got to grips with the car, made less mistakes, and suddenly he comes charging through and beats Piastri. And I think it'll be the same this year as well. Yeah, it could go either way. Norris will be relaxed, but being relaxed could make you better, or it could make you worse. It can make you better because you just relax into the role and you're not nervous. And if you're not nervous, you're not sort of snatching at the steering wheel and making decisions you shouldn't do. And so in that regard, it can go in your favour, being relaxed. But also it can go the other way, and you can be too laid back and a bit slow and not on the edge enough, not taking enough risks. But I think it will go the former. I think it will be faster. What's next up? Ferrari. Yeah, Ferrari are next, yeah. And with Ferrari, now they have their small turbo. I didn't know there was different sizes in turbos, but there's been so much news talk about it in testing that now I very much so do know all about that. And Ferrari have the smallest turbo, Audi have the largest turbo. Now that small turbo is good when the turbo needs to spool, as they say, or just sort of wind itself up and down quickly. So in other words, if you're going into tight corners. So on a circuit with tight corners, like Bahrain, that's got a few tight corners, the turbo is very good, and at the start of the race as well. The turbo is very good. Another one might be sort of Hungary, I suppose. Singapore, Mexico and Monaco, I guess. Abu Dhabi. But then you've got some other power circuits, like I think Melbourne is supposed to be a power, even though it's a street circuit, it's got quite flowing corners, as has Saudi Arabia. Terrifying street circuit, Saudi Arabia, but I think it's just mostly long sweeping corners, isn't it? No sharp turns. Spa, Monza, Silverstone, they will all suit bigger turbos. So we just don't know how much of an issue that's going to be, having the smallest turbo in the field in that Ferrari. Is that going to hamper Ferrari, or is it not going to hamper Ferrari? We don't really know yet. Yeah, we just don't know, do we? But anyway, if it comes out reliable, the car, then I think over the whole season, I think Leclerc will have the beating of Hamilton. I don't want him to. I want Hamilton to win. But Leclerc had 7 podiums last year. Hamilton didn't have any. He just had that sprint win. So, you have to go with Leclerc. I want Hamilton to win, but my head says Leclerc. basically, will finish ahead of Hamilton. And then next up, we've got Red Bull. Bit of an unknown quantity in Hadjar, but I'm obviously going to put Verstappen first. Hadjar second. Who knows? I thought Lawson was going to be good in the Red Bull last year. He came in very confident, and then it all sort of fell apart. He wasn't given long enough to prove himself. Just 2 races? That's ridiculous. With no helmet Marco there, Hadjar might get a little bit more breathing space. Who knows? But Hadjar is going into this season very confident as well, just like Lawson was, or looking very confident, just like Lawson was. But I think Hadjar is a bit tougher mentally than Lawson. Lawson was strutting about, looking tough, a bit like Bottas struts around, trying to look like Clint Eastwood, when we know he isn't. We know he's a soft, fragile puppy, Bottas, but he's look at the moustache I've got. I think it's even longer than the moustache that SpongeBob SquarePants had in that movie, that bit of seaweed on his upper lip. But it's designed to have the same sort of effect. It's designed to turn Bottas into this aggressive, the man without a name, Clint Eastwood, spaghetti western cowboy. Although, of course, Bottas does have a name. But, anyway. So, and that's a little bit like how Lawson was last year, but this year I think Hadjar, what we've seen of Hadjar last year and going into this year, I think his confidence is genuine. I don't think there's any messing about there. I think he is very confident, but we still don't know how he's going to do against Verstappen. I put Red Bull as 4th in the championship simply because their engine, it's done well in testing, but it is new. It's built at the Red Bull engine factory, obviously they teamed up with Ford for a bit of I don't know exactly what Ford have put into it, but Ford have put something into it anyway. But it's very much classed as a Red Bull engine or power unit or whatever you're supposed to call them, with sort of Ford's input. But I think it'll suffer over the season. I think there'll be gremlins, and that combined with the unknown of Hadjar makes me put Red Bull down there, basically. So 5th, I would say, would be Haas. And I would put Bearman ahead of Ocon. Now, yes, I think Bearman will continue to have the edge on Ocon like he did last year. 2 good drivers, and the Haas has proven well in testing. I think it hasn't nailed 5th place in testing, but I would put it there. But it's in that group. It's in that group behind the top 4. So I would say they're going to finish 5th. I would say Racing Bull. Okay, I've put an S on the end. It is still called that, isn't it? It changes every year, doesn't it? I've put an S on the end, but I refuse to actually pronounce the S. It's Racing Bull. Okay, it's silly to pronounce the S, but I know that officially there is an S on the end. And here you would have to put Lawson as number 1, ahead of Lindblad, isn't it? Lindblad. The only rookie in the field, Lindblad. He's looked okay in testing, but we'll see what happens. Very unknown quantity, very sort of young team, that, Lawson and Lindblad. Very young team, but I still put them there in 6th place. And then, but as I say, I think they're all very close. I put Alpine next with, of course, Gasly and Colapinto. Now, if there was another driver in there instead of Colapinto, I might put Alpine a bit higher, but I'm sorry for Argentinians out there, but Colapinto looked good when he first stepped into a Formula 1 car, but hasn't looked the part since. So I don't know maybe he's just a late bloomer, and he will come through very well this year. Who knows? But I can only judge it on last year, and that team just, for me, at the moment, just has one driver. Gasly drove very well last year, and the Alpine did well in testing. So Alpine could easily finish 5th. You know, I think any of these teams could finish 5th in this little group. Next up would be Williams. And I put Sainz ahead of Albon. Last year, Sainz had the beating of Albon. I think Albon had the edge early on in the season. Sainz then got to grips with the Williams and was definitely the better driver by the end. Well, not better driver, but he was the one that was putting in the performances. So yeah, but the Williams has struggled because it missed the shakedown. It's been playing catch-up since. They did loads of laps. In fact, I think they did the second highest number of laps. Who was that behind? Can't remember now. But I think Williams did the second or third highest number of laps in testing. And but they're still playing catch-up. And they've got a problem with the weight of their car, haven't they? Their car, there's some excess weight that they've got to get rid of somehow to make it legal at the end of the race. So I don't exactly know what Williams are going to be doing there. So I would put a line along here. Maybe I should do the line with a red pen. Two lines, yeah? Two distinct groups. Where are Aston Martin? Aston Martin. All my life, I've never known whether to say Aston or Aston. But anyway, Aston sounds lazy, a bit like the way that call a mobile a mobile. It's mobile, not mobile. Anyway, so Aston sounds a bit lazy, so I sort of want to say Aston, but then that sounds silly. So obviously Alonso, this is the most one-sided team. Alonso and Stroll. Stroll, who just strolls into that team every year, strolls into his next contract. Maybe he's just got a contract for life. Why bother doing a new contract every 2 or 3 years? Just sign it for life. But yeah, that's ridiculous. The nepotism there is daft. But anyway, although Adrian Newey has said Stroll is underrated, he's a lot better than people think. But that might just be Stroll. Might be Adrian Newey towing company line there. He can't really say anything negative, can he? All right, so Cadillac, I would put next. Now, is that 2 L's? I think it is, isn't it? See, everyone in America would know how to spell Cadillac, but in the UK, not so much. And I would, this would be a ding-dong battle all year, but you've got to pick one. So I would go with Perez. I do think Perez is the better driver of the two, slightly. So that's why I would put Perez. And I would put them ahead of Audi. Now, that might shock some people, but I've been saying all through testing and the, what do they call it? The thing in Barcelona. That's what we'll call it. Yeah, I was saying all through testing and the shakedown that the Audi looked slow. It just doesn't. It looks like a very safe, simple car design, and it just doesn't look fast. I don't think, but it hasn't been the slowest car. Aston Martin and Cadillac have been the slowest cars. Just going back to Aston Martin, I've put them way down in 9th for obvious reasons. Okay, anyone who's watched the testing, I don't think I've seen a worse start for a team in testing. I mean, there was a year was it about 7 or 8 years ago, Williams missed an entire 3-day test, I think, or was it just 1 day? I think it was a whole 3-day test. that was bad. But we weren't aware of any actual car problems they had. The problem is Aston Martin came here, and we're not. I mean, on the last day of the second test, their program was just to do 3 in and out laps. That was it. So they didn't even. That was what they were planning to do, because they knew the car was just not working. It wasn't like they'd planned to do 500 laps and then they only managed 3. They were only planning to do 3 out laps and 3 in laps. So no actual recorded lap. They just drove out, did the out lap, and then started the in lap. So it's 2 laps, but you couldn't record a time in that if you're only doing 2. And that's all they planned to do on the last 4-hour-long test session. That's terrible. That's what they were planning to do because of the problems they had with the car. But it is Adrian Newey, so I'm sure they will recover enough to finish 9th in the championship. They can't change the basic look of the car, of course, and it is very different to all the other cars, especially the nose. But the whole car looks totally different. So they can't change the fundamentals, but they will be able to change enough, I'm sure, or maybe the fundamentals will start to come good. But they'll be able to change enough, I think, to recover to 9th in the championship. But yeah, I think Audi would be last. Hulkenberg, Bortoleto is better in qualifying than Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg is better in the race. Hulkenberg is superb in the races. The way he will come through carnage and survive. Apart from the sprint race in Austin last year where he didn't survive, the carnage caused at the start there. But normally he comes charging through the field from whatever position he's qualified in. It's very impressive. Of course, we've got the new change that has been made to do with the compression ratio, something I'd never heard of before, but it's to do with the how compressed the mixture of air and fuel is in the cylinders. And the ratio was 18:1 last year. I don't know which is 18 and which is 1. Whether it's the fuel that's 18 and the air that's 1, I don't know. Anyway, the ratio was 18:1, but it was being reduced this year to 16:1. But that's when the car is off, basically. The engine's off. And the Mercedes is 16:1 when the engine's off. But the Mercedes engine in all 4 Mercedes teams, is it 4 teams or is it 5 teams? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ferrari have 3, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, it's just 4 teams. So the Mercedes 4 teams of Mercedes, McLaren, Alpine, and Williams, their compression ratio apparently increases to 18:1. Gets more compressed, basically, that mixture in the cylinders, when the temperature is a lot hotter, when the car is running. I don't know why no other team thought of that. But anyway, it's very similar to the flexible wings from last year. How they were sort of measured, when the car was stationary, and then McLaren had a clever way of doing something whilst the car was moving. And that's happened many times in Formula One, when something changes when the car reaches a particular speed, and one team finds a way of doing that, But anyway, last year set a precedent in the fact that the flexible wings had to be changed by, I think it was round 9, was it, the Spanish Grand Prix? That set a precedent. That meant that if it's possible to do that, really the FIA have to do that now, if the teams vote for it. And I don't know or the engine manufacturers in this case, with the compression ratio, the engine manufacturers had to, once the FIA agreed to put it to a vote, so now I think from round 7, is it after 7 rounds or is it at round 7? I don't know, but anyway, they're now going to be taking a measurement when the engine is full temperature and also when it's cool as well, to make sure that it is 16-1 on both. It is that way around I've done it, isn't it? Last year was 18, now it's 16, or is it the other way around? Last year was 16 and now it's 18. I don't really, I barely have a grip on it, but I know that it is to do with how the fuel and air mixture is compressed, how much it's compressed within the cylinders. Something that I have to say I'd never thought of before this year. So yeah, just like last year's flexible wings that the McLaren had, and McLaren, remember last year they just sort of shrugged and said, nah, it's not gonna make any difference to us, don't worry about it. And it didn't make any difference. McLaren's performance didn't change, it was just as good. Other teams caught them up a little bit. Red Bull got to grips with themselves, but there wasn't actually an issue with the McLaren due to the flexible wing, from what I noticed anyway. This year, Mercedes are of course shrugging and saying, psh, it won't make any difference. It's hardly anything. It does barely nothing, basically. That change in the compression ratio. Obviously it does something, but Mercedes are obviously playing it down. Toto Wolff has been playing it down a lot. So we'll see what happens after 7 rounds, but I doubt it will have a big effect. Certainly I don't think it will affect Russell. And let's just say that I think that the champion will be Russell. I think second will be Norris. Third is very difficult putting them in order, but it does depend on how hampered the Ferrari is by the small turbo. But I'm assuming it will be. So because of that, I'm putting Piastri third. Fourth, this is tricky. I was really stumped for fourth. I can't. Yeah, I'm still changing my mind now as I'm thinking about it. But I'm going to say it's going to be very tight. The only the only one that I'm sure on really is Russell at the top. That's the only one I'm sure on. I'm going to put. Who do I put fourth? Oh, I'm going to go with Verstappen. There you go. Fifth, Leclerc. It was between those two, I just couldn't decide. And therefore, sixth, Hamilton. Unfortunately, I mean, even though Hamilton is, I think, a spent force now. I think he's finished. I hope he isn't. I really hope I eat those words, because I'm a big Hamilton fan. I want him to win his 8th championship, after 2021, flipping heck. I want him to win that 8th championship. But I'm not allowed to talk about 2021, sorry. But I do think he is a spent force. I think he's just going to always be 2 or 3 tenths slower than Leclerc. 7th, Antonelli. Yes, he could be higher, but I mean, these are all very good drivers. I've got to put him in some kind of order. 8th, Hadjar. Now, for a laugh, I could pick a 9th one from one of the other teams, couldn't I? But who do I think stands the best chance? I mean, the obvious thing is to go with Bearman, because he's number 9, isn't he? Going by that list. But I think I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say Gasly. Yeah, I know I put Alpine down there, but that's mainly because of Colapinto. Gasly, I think, would win a tight battle for 9th in the championship. So I'm just going to do those 9, basically. I'm not going to add a 10th. So that's the top 8 from the top 4 teams, plus the best of the rest. Gasly, why not? He's certainly good enough. So I'm so annoyed with myself for making a mess up there. But you just have to excuse that, I'm afraid. So there you go, very basic look at the 2026 championship. what we think might happen, or what I think might happen. I do think Norris is going to be very strong, so I definitely think Russell will win. I know what some people are going to say. They're going to say, hang on a minute, you're English, and you've put an English guy number 1 and an English guy number 2. But he is half Belgian, remember? But yeah, so that's 1.5. Okay, he's fully British, but he's only half English. What a surprise. I've put those two there. But I've put Hamilton down there, and he's the one I want to win the championship, and I've put him there behind Leclerc. So, I think I'm being honest. I'm not going to say I think I'm being honest. I am being honest for what I genuinely think. If any of my opinions happen to favour a British person, it's not out of favouritism. I make no bones about how I want the British drivers to win. I would like the 5 British drivers to finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the championship, with Albon in 6th because he's half British. Okay, so I'd want him in 6th place. Well, he's probably fully British, as in he's got a British passport, I should think, but he's only half from the UK. I think it's English. I think half of him is English. Of course, the other half is Thai, and he races for the country of his mother's birth, Thailand. So there you go, and there you have it. Is there anything else I need to say? I don't think so. So there's a lot of unknowns, of course. The race orders, who's favourite, who's on top, could change from race to race because of who's got the bigger turbo, basically, or who's managing their energy, their battery charge. I've managed to go the whole video, 33 minutes, without saying the word battery. How about that? But I thought I should mention it at the end. I'm sick to death of all the battery talk. Honestly, it's just ridiculous. But I know that commentators and pundits, they have to talk about the battery and the charging and the deployment and everything because it's such a big thing. But I wish it wasn't such a big thing. And I don't think it'll be around for long. I think next year the rules will be tweaked yet again, or at least they'll be tweaked for a future year, whatever the earliest year they can tweak them for, because maybe next year would be too early for the teams. But I think as soon as they can, they will simplify it again because it's ridiculous. These things go in circles. I mean, it was only a few years ago that they went to wider cars because that was going to be better for overtaking and grip and all that, and mechanical grip and all that sort of thing. And now we're going to narrow cars again because it's better for racing and everything. I mean, 1998, the cars went very narrow, and the tyres went narrow, the wheels were narrowed. Then they were fattened up again because apparently that was better for racing, and now they've gone narrow again. They can't make their mind up. It's like the iPhone changing its every time an iPhone comes out, the corners they're rounded, then they're squared, then they're rounded again, then they're squared again. I think the current ones are rounded, so the next one will be squared. Anyway, there you go. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so, or like the video, or comment on the video, or even leave a tip on the thanks button below the video. I'm very much so looking forward to this season, and of course I should be releasing videos on every single race from a fan's perspective. Okay, thank you very much, and goodbye for now.